Welcome back. All right, so starting a new playlist today. Seattle in their inaugural season. This may very well be the last expansion team. Could very well be 32 teams at the very least. We will not see an expansion team again for a while. For anybody who says, "Oh, he's jinxed it," okay, but still, I think this is it for a while, and that's what the NHL said. That's what all indications are, and it takes years for them to go through the planning process, the all of that other stuff. It would be many years before we'd see a new team in the NHL. So I wanted to take a look at where Seattle stands in comparison with other expansion teams, starting with San Jose. And I'm starting with San Jose, not just because it fits nicely on the board, which it does, but because from San Jose through until now, this is what I would consider to be the post WHA expansion. So you have the WHA teams come in 79, and then things were pretty stable, and then San Jose gets thrown into the mix. And San Jose did pretty well, but I wanted to talk about this because now that Seattle's hit game number 5, I want to compare their record versus the other teams after 5 games. And I'll do further comparisons as we get deeper into the season. So my plan is to go games 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, and we will discuss, how teams did early on. And honestly, all the expansion teams gained at least one victory, with one small exception. So the San Jose Sharks, their first year, they were 1-4. The expectations were low for them this year, or that year, I should say. People were questioning right away, will they win more games than Washington did their expansion year, which was 8 games. That was actually the conversation, was will they? And they did. But they started 1-4. Their first NHL victory was October 8th, a 4-3 win over the Calgary Flames. Not the only time Calgary shows up on this board, actually. For Tampa Bay, who came in a year later, Tampa Bay had a very good first year. They were 2-2-1 after 5 games. October 7th was their first win. It was a 7-3 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks, one that likely Chicago wasn't happy about. The game 1 through 5 record for Ottawa was 1-4. October 8th, they won their first National Hockey League game. Alanis Morissette sang the anthem. They won that game 5-3. Alanis, you should have sang more anthems because Ottawa only won 10 games all year that year. So an opening night victory was great and all, but Ottawa was in for what would be a very brutal season. So when we start going through these seasons, you'll see Ottawa's is going to be just off the map, bad off the map. Florida, their first year, which was a year after Ottawa and Tampa Bay came in together. For Florida, they were 2-2-1 out of the gate, so they were competitive. October 9th was their first win, a 2-0 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's the start of that feud, which really actually became a real thing in 2020. From 1994 until 2020 was just kind of simmering and maybe and would have been great, but it never really quite happened. But yeah, Florida's first win was over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it was a shutout. One of 2 teams on the board with a shutout in their first victory. The Anaheim Ducks were 1-2-2, and both Florida and Anaheim had pretty good seasons. October 13th was the first win in the history of the Anaheim Ducks. They won 4-3 over the Edmonton Oilers. So Nashville comes in a few years after that. Nashville, their first year, they were 1-3-1. October 13th was their first victory. It was 3-2 over the Carolina Hurricanes. So Nashville, little slow, but they're not, the slowest. Slowest, there's one down here. There's a couple others. Atlanta, when Atlanta came in, they were 1-2-2, which isn't bad, right? In their first 5 games. October 14th was their first win in that inaugural year. They beat the Islanders 2-0. So Atlanta was in for a really, really poor first season. But through those first 5 games, it wasn't that bad. And again, they got a shutout in their first victory. The Columbus Blue Jackets then come in a year after that, and they started out 1-4. October 12th was their first victory, 3-2 over Calgary. So both San Jose and Columbus, their first victory in their team history was against the Calgary Flames. Minnesota was winless in their first 5, 0-4-1. It was game 6 of the season when they finally got their first NHL victory, and that was a 6-5 win over Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay gave both Florida and Minnesota their first NHL victories. Then we get to Vegas, and this is the one that kind of breaks the mold, right? So you've got 1 win, 2-1, 2-1, 1-1, 1-0. Gets into binary at that point. But for Vegas, they were 4-1 out of the gate. October 6th, their first game, they win 2-1 over Dallas. And there was some real good fortune there for Vegas early, and there was no telling how far this could go. We had no idea how far this was going to go. For Seattle, they have fallen into what is a first-year pattern. They are 1-3-1. October 14th, they won their first game 4-3 over Nashville. So early on, the early returns would tell you that Seattle looks like an expansion team. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that GMs did not give the kind of deals to Seattle that they gave to Vegas when Vegas came in. To this day, Marchessault and Smith from Florida. Really? And William Karlsson being a huge find for them as well. And that's still their misfit line, and they're in year 5. So Vegas through 5 games has the best record. Minnesota through 5 games has the worst record. And Seattle is tied with Nashville. They're ahead of San Jose. They're ahead of Ottawa. They're ahead of Minnesota at this point. So it does look kind of like they're an expansion team, but that's kind of the way that it worked other than Vegas. Vegas really being the exception, and I'd be very surprised if that changes. But after 10 games, we will come back and we'll look at this again. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.